Hello everyone and welcome to the next video in our series. This is going to be part 11. We're going to focus on modeling Sven's hand. And with us again, we have Craig Barr, technical specialist with Autodesk, to walk through this with us. All right. So again, Craig, we're staying to the same theme of keeping things simple. Here I'm just using a box, and I can't stress enough just that people just start with simple shapes.
Absolutely. And what you're doing here was starting out with a simple primitive, a simple default box or cube in Maya. I think that's just, it just makes sense to work with blocking in forms on something like a hand, working with things like extrusions, and then shaping it like you are with the verts there. I mean, this is the way to do it. Just start breaking out and blocking in those forms and those structures, adding your edge loops where you need them. And it certainly does make sense to start out with something simple like a basic primitive, like a cube, definitely to get to where you're going here. And I just want to point out, I see you're using the number 3 hotkey there in Maya to do a smooth mesh preview where you can get an idea of how your mesh is going to look like when it's subdivided. That's something important to do. I mean, you certainly have the freedom and flexibility here to work and continue modeling in that state as well, and that's good to see you doing that. Definitely checking out your forms there, so you can get an idea of how everything is going to look subdivided. Another little tip, just to point out, when you're using the number 3 hotkey to preview smooth mesh preview or to give it an idea of your subdivision, it's a great way to see if there are any issues going on in your low res. Sometimes if you have overlapping vertices or unwelded verts and you hit number 3 smooth mesh preview, you'll immediately see that in the preview, and you can identify areas of concerns, double edges, unwelded verts. So it's a great tool to check your mesh as you're working.
Yeah, and for some of the individuals watching this video, one of the things that I want to draw your attention to is also we have 2 split tools. You have kind of an automatic split tool, and then you have the split tool that's been around for a long, long time. You will not find that under the edit mesh. Actually, it's under the original split tool is actually under the hotkeys if you hold shift and right mouse button, and that's the one that I've used for many, many, many years, and it works really well. Not to say that the automatic one doesn't, but using a combination of both will really help you. Now, as I was doing this, I'm constantly going back and looking at my own hand, right? And right here, we're starting to focus on the thumb. Look at your thumb. Remember, the thumb is not a finger, and it actually has a little rotation, kind of, depending on how you're holding it, but kind of back towards your body. Look how those are rotated. And, I was talking to Craig before we even started recording this. Again, it's practicing. There's really no art to doing a hand. I've done a lot of research looking at different methods. Craig, I'm sure you have a method similar, or it all comes down to what you're comfortable with, right?
Absolutely. You got to find your comfort zone there and how you want to model or how you want to work with things. And I'm a big fan of starting simple, like you're doing here with starting with a simple cube and forming it in. You do have to find your comfort zone. With that, you mentioned, Chris, about how you like to use our legacy split poly tool, and that's great. That's an awesome point. You're comfortable with that. Myself, I'm kind of sold on the new interactive split tool because I like the idea of snapping to edges or verts or the midpoint on an edge, or setting how I want that to snap. Another thing that's interesting on that note is you have the choice when you right-click to work with vertices or edges or faces. A lot of people might not be aware that we have the multi option there, right, Chris? And that allows you to live work with faces, edges, or vertices at the same time. And again, that comes down to preferences. Some people may not like that idea of being able to select all of those things at once. I find it very useful if you need to move around a face or an edge or a vert, and you don't have to switch back and forth between those component modes. Got to point that out.
Yeah, actually, it's a great point. I'm somewhat old school when it comes to some of those tools, and that's where I prefer to have the individual control, plus, having a background in modeling and NURBS, where I have the infinite control over CVs, edit points, and different things using alias. That's I bring some of those skills over, and that's how it translates for me. It's interesting how everything translates different for every individual. One of the key things that I did there is I cloned the fingers. You know, when I did that, I was able to keep the same topology from each finger to finger to finger. And you can see here we're starting to open up the back of the wrist, and we're just about done modeling our hand. And essentially what we can do at this point is take our hand in, and just like all of the other tools we've done, attach it into our model and merge the vertices. So a lot of it is rinse, wash, repeat. Right, Craig?
Yeah, exactly. And what you're doing there by duplicating what you've done, I mean, this is why we have 3D tools, why we have software, right, is the ability to duplicate and replicate what you've already done. Why reinvent the wheel repeatedly for those fingers? Absolutely. Copying, duplicating a piece of geometry that you've done there and repeating it, and then, of course, finessing or tweaking it down to the differences in the fingers or the digits on the hand there is a great technique, for sure.
Well, Craig, we appreciate you joining us today. I want to encourage everybody to go make sure you've read our blog. If you have not, I'm going to point out some reference to an article in 3D World magazine, as well as some digital tutors videos that I've referenced in modeling this hand. And we look forward to seeing each of you in the next video. Thanks.